brought to you by Bethel School of Technology. Learn more at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman. A couple years ago, I did this fun thing with Charles Payne on Fox Business. It was a full hour called From Military to the Marketplace. Mm-hmm. And we're going to reverse engineer this deal. But I get that call a lot on my show from people in the military. They're about ready to get out, or they're thinking 2 and 3 years ahead. And there's this legitimate concern, Mike, that they can't offer the marketplace anything because that's all they've ever known is the military. And I almost always have to coach them through, tell me what you did in the military, tell me the skills you've acquired. And I go, so do you think anybody want to hire somebody who can do that? And they always kind of chuckle, and there's this thing. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm kind of giving you this because I love when you just take off. So there is this on the backside, men and women in the military feel like they aren't valuable and they're having a hard time ideating on what they can do. But now we've got this crisis on the front end that you're addressing and do address, and that is, I don't think America's parents or America's young people understand how great of a training ground and opportunity the military is. I'm just giving you to take with that, take what you want with that.
All right. Well, I would look at it in reverse. I would say, what do we do? What does the military do to make sure that a new conscript is prepared to be shot at and shoot back?
Right.
And vice versa. That's called boot camp.
Right.
That's called basic training. Yeah. That can range from 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the branch. It's intense. You want to be in the SEALs? It's going to be more intense. Yes. Rangers, Special Forces, and so on and so on. We have all kinds of protocols through which people must pass before we put them into this new environment. What do we do for these people when we send them back to civilian life? 0.0.
Yeah.
What we need is a kind of reverse boot camp.
Yes.
Because you can't take a 28-year-old man who has been in the thick of battle 2 weeks ago in a foreign land where he's been soldiering for 4 or 5 years, and then sit him across the desk from a hiring professional.
That's right.
To have a conversation about what he might be able to do for this organization. There's absolutely no understanding of what needs to be recalibrated. Now, that's tricky to say out loud because what some people will hear is, well, yeah, because what are they, damaged? Are they it's not about that.
No.
It's about saying you wouldn't put them into that situation without going through some sort of something.
That's right.
So we have to do a much better job at understanding how we're asking these men and women to transition.
Yes.
It's not super simple. But to your point, the basics are there. There's a giant conversation going on today about soft skills.
Yes.
Tuck your shirt in, man. Can you show up on time? Right. Will you stay late? Will you volunteer for the crappy Well, guess what? Check. Right. Those skills.
That's right.
Those men and women have that nailed.
They got respect. They understand authority, chain of command. I mean, they're conditioned to understand authority, loyalty, chain of command, all those things.
Right. And look, I hate to paint with too broad a brush. There are exceptions to every single rule. But since you asked, I would just say that every single business has a choice to build a vet-friendly on-ramp into their organization.
I agree.
You have a choice, and that's a choice that I think most people who are in a position of influence and power and who own their own businesses really ought to think about.
Yeah, I agree.
There's nothing wrong with putting your thumb on the scale in that world. But beyond that, I would just ruminate on the whole choice business. Again, do you feel grateful for the people that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Do you feel grateful that 1.5% of the country wears a uniform?
Yeah.
Even less now, right? If you do, then that's really important because 1.5% of the country also grows all the food we eat.
Yeah.
And it's always like 1.5%. So whether you're wearing a uniform or whether you're a farmer or fostering a heightened sense of gratitude, that if I were to amend my earlier answer, what I tell you, curiosity, skepticism, and a sense of humor.
Yes.
Yeah, if there was an umbrella over all of it, it would be gratitude. Because if you're grateful, just as a human being, then it's very difficult to feel bitter or abused or victimized, it's very difficult to feel sorry for yourself if your predominant default mechanism involves some semblance of gratitude. And so we are not fundamentally grateful for our military. We pretend to be, but that's false patriotism, and it only comes out on the 4th of July.
Right.
We pretend sometimes in a virtue-y, signal-y kind of way to be grateful for the people who provide our energy and our food and so forth. But really, if you really dig down, we actually kind of resent them because we can't do that.
Yeah.
And when you start to depend on somebody to do a thing that you can't do, then they become a reflection of your own inabilities.
That's really interesting.
That's the fault in our stars.
That's right.
And that's why we curse the linemen when we've been without electricity for 5 days. What's taking you guys so long?
Right.
What's the matter? Hurry up.
Right.
Right? It's hard to do that if you can hang on to some semblance of gratitude.
And so if we've lost our gratitude, specifically in the military, that's got to be a trickle-down effect on why we're seeing less young people take this very virtuous path, which, by the way, with the GI Bill, is a bit of a head start.
It's a heck of a head start. But you don't even have to use the military to make that point. How about a cop?
Yeah, same deal.
I mean, every single day, we need law enforcement in our lives to some degree. I'm older than I've ever been, and I can't think of a time in my life I can think of a harder time to be a cop than right now.
That's right.
As opposed to, say, a fireman.
Yeah.
Now, there is a severe shortage of volunteer firemen in the country right now, but from a PR standpoint, Yeah. I don't know of anybody who sees a fireman running to put out a fire and doesn't quietly go, man, I'm glad those guys are on the job.
So
glad it's not the same for cops, and it's not the same for our military, and it's not the same for our workforce. So that notion, and by the way, it's not the same for our history.
That's right.
We don't have a shared sense of gratitude, it feels, anymore for the miracle that happened a few hundred years ago that allowed you and I to sit here and navel gaze for an hour about the finer points of success and happiness.
So true.
But look, we forget our shared history at our peril.
Launch your tech career today at betheltech.net/Ken Coleman.